Most of you are probably familiar with Zillow. In fact, I would say in Metro Atlanta, not everywhere, but in Metro Atlanta, Zillow is by far the most searched real estate portal for homes for sale in Metro Atlanta. You're also probably aware that Zillow can provide what they call a Zestimate for you, which is not always the most accurate idea of value on your home. And so people have been asking me questions like, what do you think about Zillow's new policy? And I want to back up and talk about Zillow from a different angle. People started Zillow, and I don't remember when it was, 10, 12, 13, 15 years ago. It's become a big company in a short period of time. But Zillow decided, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to aggregate listing data. So we're going to get access to the listing data so that the average consumer can go and get the listing data. And I would assume the reason they wanted to do that is because first of all, I know the reason they wanted to do it is because they wanted to make money. Let's be clear about that. They wanted to figure out a way to make money by aggregating the listings and then sharing them with people, sharing them with potential buyers. But the reality is, I think in some ways, the fact that real estate, the data was closed. It was in listing books. It was in private listing services. And people could only have access to the data that a real estate agent in the area chose them to have access to. And I would assume on some levels they thought about that and said, you know what, consumers need to be able to know more about what's going on. When Zillow first started, I thought, nothing to worry about. They're never going to make anything happen. And next thing you know, 5 or 6 years later, I am a client of Zillow's, and I am paying them a substantial monthly fee. I won't tell you on the radio what it was, but if I told you, you would say, holy mackerel, meaning it was more than a six-figure expense on an annual basis. It was quite significant. And they provided me at that time with what was our best quality source of leads. And we converted those leads at a very high percentage and actually earned a pretty good bit of income over the years just from those Zillow leads. Well, Zillow has their rules. The National Association of Realtors has its rules. Now, here comes the problem. Most of you have heard of Compass. Many of you have heard of Howard Hanna. If you live in the Midwest or the Northeast or even in the Central Atlantic, you probably have a Howard Hanna or a Howard Hanna owned real estate company in your area. And both of those companies have said, we're not going to follow your clear cooperation rules. So you make these rules, National Association of Realtors, but we're not going to follow them. And what they want to do is they want to be able to have private listings that only they and their agents and their clients know about. And when you think about it, it's actually brilliant from a lead generation standpoint. The problem is this, and I'm not saying you as a home seller should have the right or shouldn't have the right to list your home in a private network without putting it on the market, because I believe you as a seller are the one who really should determine that. But I do believe that in many cases, when listings are not displayed publicly, when everybody out there doesn't have an opportunity to see it, if you put it under contract, you are going to forever be wondering, did I sell it for the highest amount? And it's just not possible to get the maximum exposure, in my opinion, without listing it in the listing service. Now, some people will not agree with me. Now we're having fun because Howard Hanna says, thumb their nose at the National Association of Realtors. Compass thumbs its nose at the National Association of Realtors. And then Zillow comes and says, oh, by the way, if you list a home and it is ever a private listing not listed in the listing service and on Zillow, you will never put that listing in our database. Now, did you hear that? Zillow says they take aggregated data that is the property of the brokers and say, oh, by the way, we're not going to aggregate those listings because you tried to sell them without using us. Can they do that? Well, I guess Zillow can do whatever it wants to. It's a publicly traded company that has a goal of making as much profit as they possibly can, and I'm guessing they can do whatever they want to. But the reality is when you get a few more big brokers saying, hey, we're not going to follow your rules and we're going to start doing private networks, it could be that Zillow even has to cave in and say, well, we'll list all of the listings. So will Zillow become a national MLS? I would say no, but who knows long term.